I know an AC guy or two, maybe we can fix this here in a little bit. I'm Wesley Geen, owner of Firehouse Heating and Air. I've got a few of my team members, Brian Brady, ops manager, and I've got Jordan and Paul, they're two of my techs. We're gonna be setting up stations, and they're gonna be manning those stations while we're practicing some of these skills. My goal today is we're going to go over the very basics of low voltage. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as we can. We found that low voltage is an area that can kick your butt, especially when it's hot outside and you're trying to get through it, get to the next one that's down. You know, I'm sure y'all are dealing with a lot of that right now. So I'm going to go over the basics of like I said, the low voltage stuff. And then I'm going to go over basic refrigeration stuff. So we're going to talk about the cycle of Freon. We're going to talk about the basics of charging. And then we're going to do a breakout session. I'm going to have two low voltage stations right here that we're going to be manning. Y'all can go in here and do some troubleshooting. And then we're going to go out here to an outside unit and talk about charging. A little bit about me. Oh, I got Brad here with Carrier. He's my territory manager for multifamily too. He's brought us a bunch of cool tools here. We're going to be giving those away throughout the training. So pay attention. I'm going to be asking some intricate questions. First one to answer, we're going to get you a nice little tool or something to help you out in your diagnosis. So a little bit about me. I've been in the fire service for over 20 years. Recently retired from the fire service to focus on this AC business. Firehouse Heating and Air came from me being in the AC or the fire service. Of course, you know, firefighters come in time of need when people's houses are hot and burning. And I kind of thought the same thing. You know, in the AC industry, we show up when they're hot and not burning. So that's kind of the thought behind it. And, you know, firefighters are trustworthy and stuff like that. You know, that's kind of the reason behind the name. I've been in the industry for about 10 years now, and I've got team members that's been in it longer than I have. By all means, I do not have all the answers. I am not perfect in this. I'm going to be struggling at some points, and I'm going to expect some of you senior guys that's been doing this for a little while to help me out too. Because I know some of y'all have probably been at it for a little while. So with a show of hands, who's been at it for 20 years? All right. 10 years? Any 10 years? Okay. 5 years? Got a few here. And then 2 years. 1 to 2 years. So we got a couple of Vicky over here. All right.
Say 30.
30 years?
All overtime I don't put in.
Okay, all right. So you times it by 2. Got it. I don't know who you are now. So you can see we have a big range of experience in here, and that's awesome. So those of y'all that's been at this for a little while, how about the other co-workers here to figure out whatever the troubleshooting thing is? Because there, at some point, you may be able to explain it to where it clicks, and that's what we're trying to get at with this. So does that make sense? If y'all, I know y'all are busy. I know that you've got communities that you're in charge of. I get it. If you need to take a phone call, that's fine. Go ahead and step out there and take it and come back in when you can. So, any questions before I get started? And low voltage? All right. I'm going to get you to take one and pass it down. Make sure everybody gets one. I have my business card on this one. This is going to be our low voltage PowerPoint. So I'm going to go over operations of low voltage, the components, tools you need, and a little bit of troubleshooting. I'm going to see if this video plays. If it doesn't, then we're going to move on. And it's not.
You connect it to the internet, or you want to hotspot or anything?
I connected it, it's just a little UP AC funny one. If I can get it going here in a minute, I will. I'm going to, everybody get one of these handouts? Buddy? Come on in, grab a seat. We got some drinks over here, if you need something to drink. There's some seats back there in the back, that way you can see, make sure you get a handout. Okay, so I skipped to a different slide than you see as far as order. I've got components here. I figured it might be a little bit better to talk about the components and the low voltage side of things, and then we're gonna get into the wiring side of things. So when I was in tech school years ago, my instructor, he gave me this one little tidbit of information, and it seemed to just stick with me. It was one of those moments that just clicked. So here it is. This is one of the big questions I'm gonna ask a little bit later. No, you got some pen. Anybody else need pens? So, yeah, it's not working. I know an AC guy or two. We're gonna see if we can figure it out here in a little bit.
All right.
If we could get a fan somehow to blow this way, that would be cool. All right, so in the low voltage world, think about this. Low voltage brings in high voltage. Think about that. Low voltage brings in high voltage. If you can get that concept down, your troubleshooting will be so much easier when you're working on your low voltage side. So, everybody knows what this is? What is this? This is my first over here. That's right, it's a contactor, right? Right here, in the hat. So, what this contactor does, just a refresher, we got high voltage comes in here, right, from the disconnect, and then high voltage comes out. Whenever we get 24 volts on this side of it, when it calls for it, it sucks in this contactor, right? Does that make sense? So does that kind of solidify the low voltage brings in high voltage? So we get our 24 volts to the little, there's a little bitty, what's the word I'm looking for? Coil here, that when it gets that 24 volt, it magnetizes this and pulls it in. So what happens when it gets pulled in? That's it, another one right here. So this is what allows your 240 volts. This is what allows your 240 volts to go through. Does that make sense? Low voltage brings in high voltage. Is there any questions about that? Am I passing anybody? If that's okay, I can keep going on this. All right, cool. So here's all the different components. Thermostat right here, everybody knows what that is, right? So the best way for me to describe a thermostat is, you know how you have your orchestras, you have your guy up there orchestrating that symphony, right? That's what your thermostat's doing. It's telling all the low voltage where to go, is what it's doing. If it says, I need you to cool, then it's gonna send signal to this, send how many voltage to this?
24.
Back there in the back. 24 volts. That thermostat says, I need 24 volts to this contactor. And it pulls it in, right? So that's, what's that?
Like remote control.
Yeah, exactly. So it also sends signal to what else to come on? Yes, blower motor. I didn't catch who went first on that one. What's that?
The blower motor.
Yeah, it tells the blower motor to come on. So you'll have this come on, and then you have the indoor blower motor that comes on. So in your air handler, majority of y'all have the above the tub, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
prefer downs, you have wall ones,
That's not flow.
upflow ones? Okay, alright, you got some old school ones. I like those better anyways. So right here is your fan relay, right?
Yeah.
So this does the same thing. It's low voltage, brings in high voltage. You'll get a call from the thermostat for it to come on. What color do you typically have to tell the fan to come on?
Green.
What was that? Green over here came first? Let's go right here with the, we got a headlamp for you. So, what does the, let's go to this slide here. Does this make sense? So, hold on, let me slow down a little bit. So, transformer, what does the transformer do?
Transfer power.
Say that again?
Transfer power.
To what?
24 or 240.
Okay, there's another winner right there. Does that make sense? Transformer, we gotta somehow step down that power to make it to where it can operate these low voltage side of things. So that's what a transformer does. A quick side note, if you ever change a transformer, always put an inline fuse on the red side. That will save that. If you got a bad thermostat and it's grounded, it'll pop that fuse instead of your transformer. And I don't know, I'm sure some of y'all have had a transformer blow up in your face. It's not fun. We got one back here that did it. So, these fuses are really where it's at. This is your fan relays I was talking about. There's some different types that there is out there. And there's even some fan relay boards on the newer models, right?
I have a question. Where do you put those fuses? That fuse?
This will be on the, so the, you know how on your transformer, you have your red wire that goes out? It'll go in line with that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
The
Yeah, to the thermostat.
The wire put the wire
Put there.
Yeah. That's right, 2 female prongs you put on it, and then you just plug it in. Yeah,
It's just thermostat feed.
that's it. That will save you so much time by just doing that. Make that a common
Well,
practice.
3 amp fuse, just like in my, I have one. So I have it.
Yeah.
3 amp.
Yeah, yours does the same thing. I sometimes like to put those in line too, so it'll help save that board too. Those boards can't take a lot of shock on them. And this is what we're talking about. There's, on the newer models, you have a fan control board too.
Quick question, Wesley. With your meter, you can check and see if your thermostat's grounded.
Yes, yes you can. Yes.
You mind explaining how to do that?
We'll do that here in just a little bit. But I want to get through the wiring side of things too. All right, so does this make sense on the components? This is just the simple, basic, low voltage components that you're going to be dealing with out there. Any questions, anything else? Make sense? What's my time?
8 minutes.
I'm 8 minutes in? Or I got 8 minutes left?
8.5 minutes and we got 12 left.
Okay, cool.
11.5 to go.
Okay, here are some of the tools that you're gonna need when you're doing your troubleshooting. I'll go into the wiring here in just a second. This is, it's called a little popper. It's a 3 amp circuit. If you could get a hold of these, I tried to order some, but they were out of stock. If y'all can get some of these in your service bag, this will save your life when you're troubleshooting your low voltage side of things. Instead of putting that fuse in line, you would put this in line and go try to figure out what's going on, because you can hit that button and reset it instead of having to keep putting more fuses in there.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah. We have some of those on this board, so when you get to playing around, you'll see that we have these on the board. Did you have a question? Good job.
Down is like a GF5, right?
Yeah. If it detects that, that we got wires crossed and grounded, then it'll short it out and trip it. Yeah. Do y'all have any heat pumps at any of your properties? Okay, cool. Then I'm not gonna talk about heat pumps. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna talk about wiring. What does the W go to?
Heat.
Over here? Did you win anything yet?
I don't know.
Let's get him one over here. So your W is typically what color?
White.
We had one over here that said white. Is that you? Back here? Did you again? All right, let's get one over here. So white is typically going to be your color for your heat mode. We've already talked about your Y. What I think we did. What did Y go to? That goes to your condenser. Have you won anything yet? Let's get something over here. So this yellow is typically the color you'll see that heads out to the outside condenser, right? And we already talked about the G for the green, which goes to the fan, right? And then C is what? Common, right? Common does what in the system? Yeah, it's what helps complete the circuit. If you don't have a common in there, these will never work. This will never pull in. So you can get your butt kicked hardcore and your common side is down. So that's something you gotta look at, make sure you have that. Now, I'm not gonna go into depth, but some thermostats, you have to have a jumper between R and C. This will kick your butt too. I see one shaking their head over here like, yep, that's gotten me before. Can you see this? Good enough?
Yeah.
Okay. If you realize it's not working in cool mode, go check this. Make sure you have that jumper in there. Sometimes they come with a little flat metal piece that holds it in there. You don't have to have that flat metal piece. Just take a little piece of your thermostat wire, strip it out, stick it in there and go. But make sure it's just these two. Now, we just talked about the R, the red wire. Is that hot all the time? Yeah. What voltage does it have? 24? Yes, 24 volts. So, remember when I was talking about the thermostat saying they're the conductor of that orchestra? So, all that thermostat is doing is managing that R wire, is what it's doing. That thing is hot all the time, 24 volts. So if it says, I'm ready to cool, I gotta send power over to yellow, to the Y, to tell that outside contactor to come on. Does that make sense? It's just orchestrating that low voltage is what this thermostat's doing. It is making the connection from that R, 24 volts, over to the yellow internally in that thermostat. That's what it's doing. And it's doing the same thing to the fan. It'll tell that fan, hey, I need to come on, so it sends 24 volts to that fan as well. That's why you have to make sure that this transformer is 24 volts and up. You'll sometimes see 30 volts, right? If you go higher than 30 volts, it needs to be replaced. Because then you're going to send too much juice to these components and start frying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you don't have 24 volts, it's only doing like 15 volts. Sometimes you'll hear this thing chattering. Have y'all heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, just really getting it. What's my time now?
6 minutes.
I got 6 minutes left? Okay, cool. All right, so does that make sense when we talk about wiring? So you're gonna have wires coming from the air handler, or let me back up a little bit. Wires coming from the thermostat, right? It goes up to the air handler, and then from the air handler, it goes out to the condenser, right? Most of y'all's properties, I believe it has 2 to 3 wires that are coming out. If you ever have to replace the wire, do an 18/8. That's what you need. I think it says it right here, 18/6, we want 18/8. Those are better communicating wires, if you gotta run. So does that make sense?
Are those wires a little bit, what, more stronger to it or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit stronger.
Okay.
Now, let's get into a little bit of troubleshooting stuff. I've got some websites that you can go to. You'll see it in your handouts. These are some awesome YouTube channels you can, just go in there and do a search on it. The service tech channel and then this HVAC school. If you just put HVAC school in your YouTube search, these two will come up. These are phenomenal for getting a little bit better in your knowledge as a tech, AC tech. It's free, it's cheap and easy. The only thing that it costs you is your time to get in it, is where it's at. So let's talk a little bit about troubleshooting. I'm gonna try to keep this as simple as I can, because then we're gonna do a breakout here just a little bit, and you're gonna be able to do a little bit more in depth. When we go into our breakout, ask these guys questions. They're gonna do a little basic, tell you about the board and kind of what everything is involved in it, so you get an idea of it. And then we're gonna have voltmeters where you can go over here and do some troubleshooting. Do you have a magnet, the magnet one readily available, jumper? Thank you, sir. So if you want to, so right here, these are jumpers. Y'all know what that is? Yeah, I think, we brought some jumpers too. Yeah. So one of the good ones to have in your arsenal is these magnet ones. I don't know if you can see, it is just a little old magnet is all it is. These are awesome for troubleshooting your thermostat. So you'll be able to see when you get over here. So if you're like, you know what, I'm gonna bypass this thermostat and I'm gonna rule it out, I wanna make sure I know I'm getting voltage to, outside of this, to a component. So you can start ruling out that thermostat. So if you want cool to come on and you've pulled your thermostat, and now we're gonna jumper, what do I jumper to? Red to yellow. Who said that back here? Right here. Here's another one right here for a winner. So R is your 24 volts. I got to bring it over to that yellow, to the Y. And that should energize outside, right? It's going to bring power to here. Now what can you do?
Check and see if you got voltage going.
That's right. You're going to come outside now. If, say, that's the problem, your outside unit's not coming on, then you can do a quick little jumper here. And then when you come out to the, I'll let you hold on to this. When you come out to your contactor, where are you going to check? Where at? We're working on low voltage side. I think a couple said it. We're going to check the 24, right? So you're going to take your voltmeter, and you're going to make sure you have it on volts. I have got my butt kicked on not setting it right. One of these, I like Field Peaks, but if you talk to Brian, he likes Fluke. Is that right? Like, he says it's the best. I think this is the best. Chevy, Ford, you know, there's a little bit of a difference. Ram, yeah. So you want to check this at volts, VAC, and then you're going to just connect on both sides. And if you're getting 24 volts to this, and this center is not pulled in, what does that mean? That contactor's bad, right? More than likely. So if you are not getting 24 volts to this, and you know you did it from the thermostat, where do you need to go check now? But you know you got 24 volts at the thermostat. I didn't throw that one out. We have 24 volts. There we go. Who said that? You did? You get another one. Y'all better step up your game. Does that make sense? If you're not getting voltage here, then you gotta go back upstream and figure out why. Right? That's where it's at. You could have a what in the line? Break in the line, right? That's where it's at. Now it's now fun begins. This is the part that sucks. This is when you kind of hope you got somebody that can help you. So start working it backwards. You can have a rat, mouse, whatever, some kind of bug, guys on the weed eaters, you know, hitting it. There's all kinds of stuff that happens in that hole.
Blue wire.
Can the, contractor burn the, transformer?
Heck yeah, it can. Yes, good question. So, what would cause this to fry your transformer? It's grounded, right? I'm not giving you any more now. You gotta let your comrades win some. So, when this is connected to your condenser, it's connected to metal, right? Everything is grounded from the house, or the panel. So, if this little coil gets grounded to this, say this back plate, then as soon as you're getting hit with your 24 volts, it'll pop that transformer. Or if you have the fuse in line, it'll pop that fuse. Does that make sense?
That was one thing I could never figure out why it was on popping. That makes sense.
I had 3 guys go over it and we still couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, it's,
Boss came over there and checked the contractor. I said, I can switch that already. But I put a single pole on there.
yeah. And you can get these bad out of the box. We had that not too long ago, didn't we? I went and bailed him out on one, same type thing, and he goes, that's a brand new one. I said, I don't care, let's change it out. Sometimes they are bad.
Sometimes you even have to change brands.
Yes.
Yeah, because some brands are like
Right.
really cheap.
Yeah, so I always tell everybody, start with a thermostat. In your process of elimination, start with a thermostat. We typically will go straight to the outside unit and start our troubleshooting there. But the problem is you're gonna wind up having to go inside more than likely anyways. So one way you can tell, this, I know I need to get to my next refrigeration part. What's a way, this is a little bit more advanced, what's a way that you'll know that transformer's working when you're at the thermostat with it still on the wall and no meter?
Your fan's running, and your outdoor fan running.
That's right.
Fan running.
So if you go to fan on, and that fan comes on, the indoor blower fan, that means that low voltage transformer's working, right? You can rule out a bunch of stuff right there just by turning that fan on. That's what I tell these guys, go to there, make sure that it's communicating. Yes, it's not a communicating system, but we know that it's sending voltage to each component. So it is communicating, right? So thermostat is where you need to go first. And then if you know, because then you can save yourself a trip too, right? If it's fan's not coming on, you're like, ugh. This is a little bit harder, it's gonna be a little bit harder. Now it's time to open up this bad boy and see how it's doing.
Spin that wheel.
Yeah. Exactly.
Spin that wheel.
Yes.
But I've had one where you put no fan, the fan comes on, you put no cool, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Ends up being a bad thermostat because it's not communicating.
Exactly.
The condenser is in the power.
I had one yesterday, all I had to do was clip the end of the wires, cause the ends went bad.
Yep.
They came on.
That is a good point. Anytime you are splicing, you want to make sure you have good splice, crimping tools. If you don't crimp that good and make sure it pulls off, then you're coming back at 3 in the morning. Every time. But yeah, that's a good point. But we still could say that the transformer's good at that point, right? Now we've said the transformer's good, we're moving on to more troubleshooting stuff, right? Anything else? You got a question?
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned is that the common concept of the thermostat on our units, it comes straight from the transformer
Right.
out to the unit.
Yes.
For the new guys.
Right.
Because they're gonna go crazy looking for the common wire on the thermostat.
That is a good point. Very good point. Did y'all catch that? A lot of thermostats will not have the common wire to it. So at the thermostat, you won't have this, most of y'all's properties. And so if that's the case, how does that thermostat get powered up? Batteries. So if you see a blank screen on there, you already know there's no common there, we need to check batteries. Most of the time you pull it off, you'll see it's corroded and built up. If you have one corroded, you're laughing, you've seen that. If you have one corroded, built up, replace the whole thermostat. Don't jack around with it, you're gonna waste your time.
And then get back to the thermostats, I tested it where the back was good, but the face was bad, or vice versa.
Yep. You're talking about the mounting plate
Yeah,
back here?
yeah, sometimes the
Yep.
back is good, but the face is bad.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Does that make sense?
What do you do if you don't have a thermostat?
Go get one.
You start making phone calls.
What if
You
it's
go get
closed
it.
at 3 in the morning?
Hey, you can always,
Put a window unit in.
Yeah, you can put a window unit. Now, probably where you're getting at is you can jumper your R, your G, and your Y all together, and it turns everything on.
depending on the season. Hit them up,
If you're doing it in the heat side of things, you will torch them out.
Oh, yeah.
This is not recommended. Now, if you're working on troubleshooting stuff and you want to keep all of these together, that's where I would typically do it. Otherwise, go get a thermostat. Keep them in stock. Call your fellow comrades. Hey, I need a thermostat. So,
Oh, yeah, so fast.
yeah, and yes. Any other questions on low voltage? Like I said, I wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible. For the rookies in here, is this making sense? Okay, so in the beginning, I said, what brings in what? That's right, you get a pouch. Yeah, let's go with the, so low voltage brings in high voltage. Does that make sense? I'm telling you, when it is 110 degrees outside, the number one thing technicians has got to do is slow down. When you get flustered, go drink a Coke. Actually, drink water right now. My Uncle Bill, that's where I learned a lot of my stuff. The Uncle Bill School of Hard Knocks. Like I was out running calls with him. He's been at it since the 60s. He said, Wes, go drink a Coke. Nowadays we need to drink water, obviously, but that's when you gotta slow it down. That's when you go back in your brain and say, wait a minute, low voltage brings in high voltage. I need to go look at that. Do I have my 24 volts? Is it communicating? And start working it backwards. Now, here in a minute, I've got an app I'm gonna have y'all download, and it has some cool troubleshooting stuff that'll help you when you get in those moments. So does that make sense? Good job. Low voltage brings in high voltage. Anything else in the low voltage side of things I want to discuss? You got anything? Good? Danny, you got anything else you want to add to it that you've seen? Sorry, I called you out. Okay, cool. Let's switch gears. We're going to talk about refrigeration. These are the two subjects that Danny had talked about that seems to be the ones that kick your butt. And so I want to keep this at a basic level because in all reality, it's that old KISS method. Keep it simple, you know.